Did you know that over 271,000 people in the UK are already homeless? And that number could explode in 2025? What if I told you that you could lose your home next year, not because you stopped paying rent or broke the law, but because of new, quiet laws slipping through Parliament right now? Most people don't see them coming until it's too late. Hidden inside government documents and legal reforms are rules that could skyrocket your rent, strip away your tenant rights, or even allow your landlord to kick you out overnight, legally. And the scariest part? They're already approved or about to go live in 2025. In this video, we'll uncover 10 new UK laws that could put you or someone you love at risk of losing their home. Don't blink. Missing just one could cost you everything. Number 1. Stricter council tax penalties for empty rooms. Starting in 2025, several UK councils are rolling out tougher penalties for households with empty bedrooms, especially in areas with housing shortages. What used to be a quiet detail in your council tax bill could now cost you hundreds more per year, simply for not using all the rooms in your home. This policy is based on updated local taxation powers tied to the under-occupancy rule, also known as the bedroom tax, but it's about to get more aggressive. Councils claim this move encourages better use of housing, but in practice, it's hitting pensioners, single parents, and low-income households the hardest. Imagine this. Your adult child moves out, and suddenly that spare room means you're being penalized. Or worse, you're forced to downsize, losing the home you've lived in for decades. And it's not just social housing. Some councils are now applying similar logic to private renters and even homeowners, adjusting council tax banding based on occupancy patterns. What can you do? If you're affected, apply for a discretionary housing payment through your local council. Check if your local authority has exemptions for carers, students, or disabled residents. Keep documentation showing legitimate use of the room, even occasionally. This could help during an appeal. This might seem like a small policy shift, but it's the first domino in a series of changes designed to squeeze every inch of value from your home, even if it leaves you struggling. And we're just getting started. Number 2 is about a law that could make your rental home illegal overnight. Let's break it down. Number 2. EPC rating threshold raised. In 2025, the UK government is enforcing stricter energy performance regulations, and it could spell disaster for millions of renters and landlords. Under the new law, all rental properties must meet a minimum EPC rating of C to be legally rented out. Right now, the minimum standard is E, but that's changing fast. Properties that don't make the cut may be declared unfit to rent, forcing landlords to either pay thousands in upgrades or evict tenants. And here's the twist. More than 2.4 million UK homes currently fall below the C rating. That means millions of tenants could find themselves legally kicked out, even if they've done nothing wrong. For landlords, the upgrades can cost between £5,000 to £15,000 per property. Many small-scale landlords may simply choose to sell or evict, rather than pay up. So what does this mean for you? If you're renting, check your home's EPC rating right now. It's publicly available online. Ask your landlord what their upgrade plan is. If they don't have one, that's a red flag. If you're a landlord, look into available grants and green home funding to help with insulation, double glazing, and energy-efficient systems. This law is being pushed as part of the UK's climate goals, but it comes with a harsh reality. Families could find themselves homeless just because their home isn't green enough. Do you think this law goes too far, or is it a necessary step for the planet? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. And if you want to stay ahead of every hidden law that could impact your home, hit subscribe now. We're just getting into the most shocking ones. Number 3. Leasehold reform loophole closure. Picture this. You've worked for years, maybe decades, to finally own a piece of property, a flat in a quiet block, a starter home for your family. But what if I told you that despite holding the keys and paying the mortgage, you don't actually own your home in the way you think? That's the harsh reality for millions of leasehold property owners across the UK. And in 2025, changes to leasehold laws, meant to protect you, could actually leave you worse off if you're not paying close attention. The government is closing certain legal loopholes to curb exploitative lease agreements. But here's the twist. New valuation methods for ground rent and lease extensions could unexpectedly raise the cost of your lease. In some cases, these costs could double or triple, leaving homeowners unable to afford renewals, or worse, at risk of forfeiting their lease entirely. And it's happening quietly. You won't get a letter saying your home is under threat. Instead, you'll see it in paperwork, in legal language, in a sudden bill you didn't expect, arriving just before your lease hits the 80-year mark. A critical turning point where fees spike. Those who don't act fast or who aren't financially prepared may find themselves trapped in a property they can't sell, can't afford to renew, and eventually may be forced to give up. This law isn't about losing your rental, it's about losing the very foundation of your financial future. The scary part, many leaseholders don't even know they're vulnerable. And if this is you, or someone you know, you'll want to hear what's coming next. Number 4. Benefit cap review and housing allowance cuts. For many families in the UK, housing benefits are the only thing keeping a roof over their heads. But in 2025, that safety net is being quietly pulled back. And the effects could be devastating. The government is set to review and potentially tighten the benefit cap, which limits the total amount of welfare support a household can receive. At the same time, local housing allowance (LHA) rates, which determine how much help people get with rent, are being re-evaluated and possibly reduced in many areas. What does that mean in real life? It means a single mum in London may no longer receive enough to cover her rising rent. It means pensioners on fixed incomes could suddenly face shortfalls they simply can't fill. And it means people on universal credit may be forced to choose between heating their homes or keeping them at all. These aren't distant hypotheticals. This is about real households who've done everything right, followed the rules, paid their dues, now facing eviction notices because the government quietly shifted the goalposts. And it's not just cities. Even small towns with rising rents are being affected, as LHA rates haven't kept up with market changes. Some charities are already warning of a tidal wave of hidden homelessness in 2025, where families aren't on the streets, but are sofa surfing, living in temporary hostels, or split up due to the cost of keeping a home. If you or someone you care about relies on housing support, even a little, this isn't just a policy change. It's a lifeline that might be fraying. Number 5. Renters Reform Bill activation. On the surface, it sounds like great news. Section 21, no-fault evictions are finally being abolished in 2025 under the Renters Reform Bill. For years, landlords could legally evict tenants with just 2 months' notice. No explanation needed. Thousands of families were uprooted with no wrongdoing. So naturally, this change was celebrated. But the reality? It's not that simple. While Section 21 is being scrapped, new grounds for eviction under Section 8 are being quietly expanded. Landlords can now evict if they claim they want to sell the property, move in themselves, or cite persistent rent arrears, even if you've only missed a couple of payments in a tough month. Worse still, tenants now have less protection against sudden eviction during disputes, especially with the court system already overwhelmed and slow to process challenges. And while a new mandatory registration for landlords and property portals is being introduced, enforcement is still patchy. Many rogue landlords are likely to find workarounds, especially in areas with housing shortages where demand gives them all the power. So here's the harsh truth. You might think you're safer now that no-fault evictions are gone, but in reality, you just have different traps to worry about. If you're renting in 2025, you need to know your rights, understand the new Section 8 rules, and track any notice you receive like it's a legal time bomb. Because it just might be. Number 6. New licensing requirements for landlords. In 2025, renting isn't just about paying your rent on time. It's about whether your landlord is even legally allowed to rent to you. A sweeping expansion of landlord licensing laws is being rolled out across various UK regions. Local councils are gaining greater authority to enforce licensing schemes, especially in areas with high-density housing or rising complaints. This means every private landlord, yes, even ones with just a single property, must meet stricter standards and register officially, or face serious penalties. What's the problem? Many landlords don't even know these new rules apply to them. Some are ignoring the process altogether. But here's where it affects you. If your landlord isn't licensed, your tenancy might be technically illegal, and you may be evicted with short notice if authorities catch wind of it. Even worse, tenants in unlicensed properties may not be protected under standard eviction laws or housing complaint processes. And let's not forget the financial side. Some councils are charging £500 to over £1,000 per licence, pushing smaller landlords to either sell off their properties or raise rents sharply just to keep up. The intention behind these rules is to crack down on slum landlords and improve safety standards. But for good tenants in decent homes, it's becoming a dangerous game of chance. If your landlord isn't up to date, you might be the one who pays the price. Tip: if you're unsure, check your local council's landlord register or request your landlord's license number. You're not being rude, you're protecting your right to stay housed. Number 7. Criminalization of unregistered short-term lettings. Renting out your spare room or flat on Airbnb used to feel like an easy side hustle. But in 2025, that freedom is being replaced with fines and even criminal charges. New national and local rules are tightening fast. If you're letting out a property on a short-term basis, even just for a few weekends a year, you may now be legally required to register your listing, obtain a planning permit, and adhere to strict safety and occupancy standards. Failing to do so? That could get you fined up to £30,000, or even prosecuted depending on the council. This isn't theoretical. London already has a 90-day annual limit for short lets, and cities like Edinburgh and Manchester are rolling out registration schemes that include site inspections, guest caps, and licensing fees. The rest of the UK is following quickly. What's especially dangerous is how many casual hosts don't realise they're breaking the law. A weekend rental to cover your mortgage might now violate planning laws. Even renting out a room in your own home could trigger registration requirements, especially if you advertise it online. If you're a tenant subletting a room on Airbnb without written permission, that's a potential breach of your tenancy agreement, and yes, you can be evicted. In short, what used to be extra income could now be a legal minefield. And for property owners relying on Airbnb income to stay afloat during high mortgage rates, this law could be a tipping point, turning a profitable flat into a legal liability. Number 8. Build-to-rent incentives reduce social housing stock. There's a silent shift happening in cities and towns across the UK, and most people don't even realise it's happening until they try to find an affordable place to live. It's called build-to-rent, and in 2025, it's being heavily incentivised by the government. On the surface, it sounds like progress: sleek, modern apartment buildings with professional management, concierge services, and Instagram-worthy interiors. But here's the catch: these properties are being built instead of traditional social housing. Developers are now being encouraged through tax breaks and planning fast tracks to focus on high-end rentals, which generate more profit than council homes or affordable housing units. In many areas, what used to be reserved for social developments is now being approved for private rental towers. And this isn't just affecting future tenants, it's shrinking the overall pool of low-cost housing, pushing wait lists for council homes even longer, and forcing thousands into temporary accommodation. In essence, we're watching a slow privatization of the rental market, with families, key workers, and vulnerable individuals priced out of their own communities. Even the term affordable housing has become blurred. Many build-to-rent flats are labelled affordable based on 80% of market rate, which in cities like London or Birmingham is still completely out of reach for most. It's a polished corporate version of housing, but underneath the surface, the safety net is disappearing. So the question isn't whether there will be homes to rent in 2025. There will. The real question is, will anyone on an average income be able to afford one? Number 9. New eviction fast-track powers for antisocial behaviour. In 2025, a single noise complaint could be enough to trigger eviction proceedings, even if you've done nothing wrong. As part of a tougher stance on antisocial behaviour, the UK government is introducing fast-track eviction powers that give landlords and housing associations the ability to remove tenants quickly if they're accused of causing persistent disturbances or behaving in a way that disrupts the community. Sounds fair, until you realise how vague and subjective the rules are. What counts as antisocial behaviour? Loud music, a heated argument, too many guests over? It's no longer just about crime, it's about perception. And once a neighbor reports you, the clock starts ticking. These rules are designed to protect communities from real issues like drug dealing or harassment. But in practice, they open the door for false reports, personal grudges, or misunderstandings to become grounds for eviction. Tenants in social housing are particularly at risk, as councils often act quickly to avoid legal liability or complaints. And once the process begins, you might not have time to build a proper defense, especially if you're not offered legal aid. Even worse, many tenants don't know they have the right to challenge accusations, request evidence, or demand a fair hearing. They just accept it and leave. So yes, antisocial behavior should be addressed. But in 2025, the line between bad neighbor and bad day is getting dangerously thin. The bottom line, you could be one complaint away from homelessness. Number 10. New homelessness definition for local authorities. In 2025, the UK is quietly changing the very definition of what it means to be homeless. And for thousands, that could mean losing access to the help they desperately need. Traditionally, if you didn't have a permanent home, were living in a hostel, or even staying on a friend's sofa, you could qualify for assistance from your local council. But new updates to the statutory definition of homelessness are raising the threshold, meaning fewer people will now qualify for urgent housing support. What's changing? Local authorities will now require clearer evidence that someone has no access to suitable accommodation, and may reject applications from those they consider to be in temporary but stable living situations, even if that situation is unsafe or precarious. That means if you're fleeing domestic violence but still have a roof over your head, you may be denied help. If you're sleeping in your car or rotating between friends' flats, you may not count as homeless anymore. And with councils under increasing pressure to cut costs, these stricter definitions are being used to reduce the number of accepted cases, pushing people into hidden homelessness, living in cars, overcrowded homes, or on the verge of the streets. This isn't about statistics. It's about real people being told, you don't qualify, people with nowhere to go. So when we say 2025 could leave you homeless, we don't just mean physically, we mean invisible, unacknowledged, and unsupported. And that's perhaps the most dangerous place to be. Before you go, ask yourself this: could one of these laws affect you or someone you love without warning? If any of these hit close to home, tell us your story in the comments. And if you found this video eye-opening, check out our last one on 10 legal rent traps still allowed in the UK. It's a must-watch. We put a lot of work and research into these videos to keep you informed and protected. So please, support us with just one click and subscribe to the channel. It truly means everything.